Call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. And then, can I get a roll call?
Judy Bory is not here. Cheryl Hall.
Here.
Pam Krause.
Here.
Yvonne Cruiser.
Here.
Vivian Reisky.
Here.
Vera Walters.
Here.
Lori Wine.
Here.
And Pam
Here.
is here. And we have our guest, Joel Stern. And I am here. And we have a quorum.
Awesome. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda?
I so move. I second it.
We don't vote on that one, right?
I can do a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Judy Bory, not here. Cheryl Hall.
Yes.
Pam Krause.
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser.
Yes.
Vivian Reisky.
Here. Yes.
Vera Walters.
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of September 9th, 2021?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes of September 9th.
I second.
Who did the second? Cheryl. Judy Bory, not here. Cheryl Hall.
Yes.
Pam Krause.
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser.
Yes.
Vivian Reisky.
Yes.
Vera Walters.
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now is the call to the public. Do we have any public?
No.
Of course. All right, let's move on to the next agenda item. Any correspondence and communication?
Not tonight.
Awesome. Can we get the librarian's report?
You can. Thank you. Pam Harrison, Library Director. Going to first show you some of our quarterly statement. This is a quarterly summary report of the major statistics for the library. You did receive via email last week the detailed reports for July, August, and September of 2021. Now we're showing you a full quarter, and next meeting in January will show you the next quarter of meetings, which will be October, November, and December. So this is looking back a couple months, and for those of you that have been board members in the past, you have seen these already, but this is more for the new board members. So we're going to start doing these summary reports, so it's a little bit easier to see the progression of statistics. So June was a weird month in that we had to cut off the month to complete our annual report. So we cut that off at June 12th. So this is showing June 13th through July 31st of this year. So you'll see that those statistics are higher than August and September. But looking at August and September, you'll see that our patron visits have, they basically stayed the same. Our material circulation also are within 100 points of each other. Total volunteer hours were basically the same. And then we've got our children's programs and attendance, teen programs, adult programs and attendance, and our outreach programs. Did anybody have any questions about any of these programs or about any of the statistics?
I
No.
had a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to do this in a graph form so that we can see either bar chart or line chart?
Yeah, that's funny. We were talking about that today. So, Sancy, is it possible to do this in graph form?
Yeah, we kind of just threw this together today for you, so. Next time we'll have it in graph form for you.
I just thought it was too hard to look at 3 different pages of statistics simultaneously, so we threw it in this order. But yeah, we were talking about doing some sort of a pie or a bar graph. Do you have a preference on what type of graph you would like to see?
Not necessarily, but what I'm interested in is seeing not just, I'd like to see seasonality, so obviously the month-to-month numbers, but I'd also like to see year-over-year numbers so that we can compare this year to last year. As far back as you have numbers would be nice.
Oh, boy.
But I know.
Are you sure about that?
In the last couple of years, just so that we can see trends.
Okay. And you will see a lot of a lot of dips because of the pandemic, so yeah. But it'll give you an idea of pre-pandemic versus pandemic versus post,
Yeah.
so.
So if you have like 2019 to 2021, knowing that 2020 is going to be really odd and unusual for a long time,
Oh, yeah.
that would be great.
Okay.
Now that you brought it up, I got a question.
Sure.
Since before COVID to now, do you see where do you see our numbers at compared to before COVID? Are they starting to grow back up to where they were, or?
They are slowly.
Okay.
They are slowly. Yeah, we're still, I wouldn't say I would say we're probably 1/3 to a quarter down from what we were pre-COVID,
Okay.
so.
And the second question, I know you guys have D&D. Is that a kids program or is that a teen program? Because it has multiples of both groups in it.
So originally it was supposed to be for teens, 12 to 17, and I know some people brought their younger children, and we have such a nice volunteer running that program that he just let some younger kids in there. But now I believe they're trying to make some different age groups so that it's more interesting for the older kids to be with their own age and the youngers that are still learning it to be with their peers. So I'm not sure what, I think they just started doing that last month, and I'm not sure what the numbers were for that. Do you remember which nights? Is it Monday night is now teens and Wednesdays is kids?
Other way around.
Oh, okay.
Mondays is kids and some teens, and then Wednesdays is teens. And then starting January, we were looking at doing a kid, not quite so long, so it's a little more kid-friendly for their attention span. And then doing more of an adult or teenage group.
Okay.
But a lot of the teenagers will show up at the younger ones to help walk them through, which is great.
Okay, yeah, that's really good.
We have some really good volunteers with that.
And it was nice for the teens to welcome in the younger kids too, but the purpose was to have their own program, so good. I'm glad that that's working out. Are there any other questions about programs, circulation statistics? And just so you know too, the total material circulation statistics does include our e-content. So Greater Phoenix Digital Library, Cloud Library, Hoopla, all those digital platforms. All right.
A couple months ago, you guys did that college program that was free classes. Do we have any idea of how much of that's getting used through our library or not? Because you have to log in through.
Oh, the universal class?
Yeah. Do we have any idea of how well that's getting utilized or not?
I would have to look. Let me write
I
that
didn't know
down
if you
for
guys had
next
access
month.
to find out or not, so.
I'm not sure if they're breaking down the stats for that within Overdrive, but I will look for next month, and that might be a separate category that we need to look at, so.
Thank you.
Universal class. Can I borrow do you have another pen?
No, here's yours for now.
Mine's run out of ink.
Glad you bring those pens.
Okay, so let's close out of all of these. Okay, next we have our event for tomorrow. Just a reminder, the Story Walk at Prospector Park, which is our partnership with Parks and Rec Department with an LSTA grant from the Arizona State Library. The Unveiling is tomorrow. Kids' activities start at 10 o'clock. The grand unveiling will be at 10:15, and I just heard today that the state librarian will be there along with some other people from the state library. I've invited a lot of council members and all the board members, so we're looking forward to having everybody out there, and we're praying for sunshine, because I know tonight we're supposed to get some rain. So we will be on the north side of the park. So if you go on the second entrance to Prospector Park and just go all the way to the back where the Ramada is, and that is where the Story Walk will begin. It is 0.47 miles, so almost a half mile, but do take into account that you will need to turn around and walk all the way back to 1 to get back to your car, unless you brought 2 people to bring the car around. Kona Ice will be there selling treats. We did reach out to the author of our first book, and for those of you that are watching tonight, you're gonna get the name of the book before anybody else, so feel special. It is called Sneezy the Snowman. The author is Maureen Wright, and she lives in Pennsylvania. We reached out to her to see if she would like to attend. She unfortunately cannot attend, but ironically, she has a daughter-in-law who lives in Phoenix, and some of their family members are in town right now, so they are going to be attending tomorrow. And she did say, "Thank you for your kind words and the honor of featuring Sneezy on your first story walk. I'm afraid I won't be able to make it to the unveiling, but look for a letter from Sneezy soon in your postal mail." And we did get that letter, and we'll be reading that tomorrow. So we hope everybody can join us out there. There'll be, in addition to kids' activities, we're giving away a book to all the kids that attend. So should be a fun time.
What's going to happen to the books when we get done and we rotate in a new book? Are we going to do some signatures and send it to the author for the appreciation?
It's possible. I do hear that a lot of the time the book gets pretty ratty because of moisture that might creep in through the story walk frames and also the fading. But we can see what they look like at that point. It was quite a process, though, to create the story walk boards. Stephanie Green in our youth department took that challenge on. It involved actually dismantling the whole book, so you had to have at least 2 copies of the book because pages are on both, pictures and text are on both sides. And then you need to laminate, get them into a storyboard format, laminate them, and then those have to be attached to backer board or poster board of some sort, which sounds easy in theory, but it turned out to be quite 8 feet because you're working with 18-inch by 24-inch poster board with a brand new laminator that we had never used before. So we had a couple challenges, but all in all, it has turned out well. And unlike the picture, the frames on here are angled. Ours are flush, so they're straight, and we're hoping that's going to help a little bit with the sun exposure and with any moisture, even though we don't get much moisture out here. Tomorrow, of course, we are because it's our unveiling. So, any more questions about Story Walk? All right, and to add another wonderful program, Saturday, the library is doing what they're calling Holiday Merriment. So this is almost a full day of activities for the family, starting at 10 o'clock with a holiday donkey puppet show. A local resident who owns donkeys is bringing her donkey, a miniature donkey, in for a puppet show, sing-along, stories. She is going to be giving away some books to some of the kids from her packs on her donkeys. 11 o'clock is the Gingerbread Demonstration with 2 of our staff, Megan Carbiner and Leah Martin. There will be samples. Noon is the Apache Junction High School Jazz Band playing for us. And then from 1 to 3, we're going to have a visit with Santa where there will be cookie decorating and crafts for kids and teens, and of course, parents. So lots of stuff going on Saturday, so we're hoping everybody can make it out for those events. Any questions about any of those? All right. I don't have a picture for this one, but our creation zone that I've spoken about in the past, it's basically our maker space. It has now officially reopened, and the equipment that is in that room consists of a 3D printer, a digitization station, a poster printer, a microfilm and microfiche scanner and reader, and soon a Cricut maker. So those are first come, first serve. When patrons request to use the equipment, we do have them sign an agreement. We give them a brief overview if needed of the equipment, and then they are left to use it as long as they need to use it. At least that's the way we're going to run it for now until we decide changes need to be made. So I know a lot of people are interested in the digitization station. We call it the Digi Station. It can convert your VHS home movies to DVDs and also your MP3s to MP4s. And also the 3D printer, of course, is very popular. So we're hoping to soon do some demonstrations of some of the different equipment that's available for the public.
With your Cricut, is someone paying for like the Cricut access, or is that on the patrons to have their own use of that?
So the Design Space account is free, but in terms of using the Cricut, we do have tools that we can, basic tools we can check out to them. But when it comes to the cardstock or any materials they need to create crafts on them, they will need to bring in their own craft materials.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Alrighty, and lastly, I'm really excited to announce that we have secured a public library consultant who is going to be helping us develop and write a strategic plan, which will be anywhere from a 3 to 5 year plan. And it's going to incorporate input from the community and also library stakeholders. In doing so, it's going to identify service priorities for the library, which we're then going to break down into goals, objectives, and activities. And the former director of Phoenix Public Libraries, whose name is Tony Garvey, she will be our consultant, and she's going to lead us in this process that she's been doing for a lot of years. So the whole project is going to involve analyzing population projections for the area and demographic profiles of the library service areas, which are going to include the service areas to the south, collaborating with a strategic planning committee, a community needs assessment that's based on direct input from the public in the form of online surveys and focus groups, identifying and prioritizing library services based on community needs and developing corresponding goals and objectives to reach those needs, and then possibly reviewing and reworking the library's vision, mission, and value statements. And we expect to start our work with her right after the holidays. So I'm really looking forward to this because it's been several years before, since we've had any type of survey instrument go out to the Apache Junction community for the library. And the last time it was done, it was actually for the whole county, Pinal County. So this time it'll just be for our library. And since we've had so many changes over the past years, I really felt it was time to get a professional in there to lead us in the best way to go about this, and especially with the new land to the south of us, to get us on the right path for the future. So any questions about that? Okay, and that's it tonight for the librarian's report.
Awesome. Any old business? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It was just so quiet, I didn't know. So is there any old business?
No.
No.
Awesome. Okay, new business. We need to welcome the new library board members. Obviously, I'm not there in person to see everybody's faces, but if you can briefly introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. Hi. Hi, I'm Cheryl Hall. I'm sorry if I sound a little hoarse. I am dealing with a cold. I am a very new Apache Junction resident, but I've lived in Arizona for most of my life, and I'm a native, so I know Arizona, but I'm just learning Apache Junction. Is there anything else that you want to know? I'm not. Go ahead.
I know you have an interesting work history, so maybe if you want to elaborate a little bit on what you've done in past employment, that would be great.
Okay. I'm not currently working, but my background for the last 15 years has been in talent development. So I have a lot of background in learning and development and employee engagement, what I call the fun side of HR. It's not the compliance side, it's the part where we're focused on how to help people get better at what they do. So that's a big driver for what I like to focus on when I do jobs. Before that, I worked for Intel Corporation doing supply chain management, which very process oriented, and that's certainly the way I think. But I don't really work in that area anymore. It's mostly HR stuff.
Oh,
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Yvonne Cruiser. Lived in Apache Junction since 1989. Made use of the public library considerably when our kids were smaller, and just now my time is freed up. I've been was my dad's caretaker for a couple years, and my time is now freed up and looking forward to getting back involved in the community again.
Cruiser is a very last name that is known to me. Are you related to Tyler Cruiser?
That's my son.
Oh yeah, I went to high school with him.
Oh, high school. That's interesting because we homeschooled, so he must have hung
wait,
out with
maybe
some
not.
friends.
Yeah, friends then. Because he used to be married to Caleb, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I know him from. I
Yeah.
thought he went to high school with us, and I just didn't pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he lives in Texas now. So,
Awesome,
yeah, super interesting. Small world, right?
definitely.
Well, welcome to both of you. We're pleased to have you.
All right. We need to elect officers, not officers. This annual election, we need to select the president, the vice president, and a secretary for the library board. The officer who currently holds a position may not be reelected for the same position, but may be nominated and elected for any other positions. Each officer is expected to serve for one term, or each thing for 1 year. So can I call for a motion to open nominations for president?
I so move.
Can I have a second?
Second.
And can I call for a roll call?
Judy Bory, not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So does anybody have any nominations for president?
I nominate Cheryl. Welcome to the board.
I'll second that one.
Well, I'm sorry, this is Joel Stern.
Yeah.
Sorry, the president can't see me because she's on the phone, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't second it, you just call 3 more times for
Okay.
any other nominations.
Okay. Are there any more nominations?
I nominate Pam.
Oh, is there any more nominations? And then third time, any more nominations? Cool. Can I ask for a motion to close the nominations?
I so move we close the nominations at this point.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Can I call for a roll call to vote on the motion to close nominations?
Yes, Judy Bory, not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion to close nominations is passed.
Call for motion to approve first person nominated for president?
And for the record, you should state the name.
She said
Cheryl Hall.
Cheryl.
Cheryl Hall.
Yeah.
So call for a motion to approve Cheryl Hall for president?
I motion.
And call for a second?
I'll second that one.
Roll call?
Judy Bory, not here. Cheryl Hall,
Can I abstain?
Well, unless you have a conflict. If you don't have a conflict,
Well, I don't know that I would be the best president, so that would be a conflict for me.
if you feel it's a conflict, then you may do that. but however, the vote will
Then I
still
guess
go.
no. Yeah, I guess no then.
Okay. Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
No.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
No.
Lori Wine.
No.
Okay, that's 4 against and 2 for, so does not pass.
Can I, let's see, I'm looking for,
Pam Kraus was the second one.
yes. Can I call for a motion to approve Pam Kraus for president?
I so move.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Can I get a roll call?
Okay, Judy Bory's not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
No.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion passes. Pam Kraus.
All right.
Congratulations.
Pam, you get the gavel.
Okay,
And it says that you get to take over the meeting from here.
Thanks. Oh, I take over from now?
take over from here.
This is the part I'm gonna screw
So
up.
you're gonna
fine.
start where she left off, right where I have the little sticky note.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
See,
then-
that's why I was only present for this half of the meeting.
Well, you did a great job.
She said.
Anyway.
President for this half of the meeting.
All right. Okay,
So,
just give me one moment. Okay, so now we need to elect an official for the vice president. Do I have any nominations for the vice president?
Actually, you'll open
Open
nominations for.
Thank you, Larry.
I move that we open nominations for the vice president.
I second.
Who was the second? Lori?
Me.
Oh, Cheryl, okay.
Call for a second. We got it, okay. Call for a roll call?
Judy Bory not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
Lori Wine.
yes.
Motion to open nominations passes.
Let's roll call vote, announce outcome. Oh, call for no- And do we call for nominations for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Cheryl Hall for vice president.
All right.
I second that.
Well,
Yeah.
once again, you don't second it, you call for more nominations, 3 more
yes,
times.
yeah.
Okay, do I have another nomination for vice president?
Lori Wine.
And do I have any more nominations for vice president?
One more time.
Oh, one more, okay, sorry. Well, this is like 2, so I want to make sure.
Yeah, you have to do 3 plus the original.
I'm glad you're here, thank you. Call for nominations for our vice president. And, okay. Ask the motion to close nominations.
I move we close nominations for vice president.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who made the second?
I did.
All right, and then I call for a roll call vote.
Judy Bory not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion to close nominations. It's passed.
Okay, call for a motion to approve Cheryl Hall, correct? For vice president.
I move we approve Cheryl Hall for vice president.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Judy Bory not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Motion to approve Cheryl Hall for vice president passes.
Okay. So now, do we have to go back and do? Because everybody, yeah, that's. Does that like automatically mix Lori?
Yeah.
Okay,
So you have one more to do, right?
yes, secretary.
Yep.
Okay, call for a motion to open nominations for secretary.
I move we open nominations for secretary.
Call for a second.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Judy Bory not here. Cheryl Hall.
Yes?
Pam Kraus.
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser.
Yes.
Vivian Reisky.
Yes.
Vera Walters.
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Can I call for nominations for secretary?
I move we nominate Lori Wine for secretary.
Okay, do I have call for nominations? Another nominations for secretary? Did I do that wrong?
That's right.
Nope, you did
Okay.
fine.
Thank you. And then call for nominations for secretary? Okay. Ask for motion to close for
One more time.
One more time.
Sorry, one more.
I'm gonna,
You'll get it.
I thought it was three, okay. Do we have any other nominations for secretary? All right, ask for a motion to close for nominations.
I move we close the nominations.
I'll second.
Call for a roll call?
Judy Bory not here. Cheryl Hall.
Yes.
Pam Kraus.
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser.
Yes.
Vivian Reisky.
Yes.
Vera Walters.
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Motion to close nominations passes.
All right, I need help.
Motion to approve the
Motion to.
Lori Wine for,
For
Okay,
secretary.
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, I move that Lori Wine be approved for secretary. Call for second.
I second.
Call for roll call vote, please.
Vivian second?
No, I didn't.
Who did the
Second.
second? Or Vera, sorry, Vera Walters. Okay, Judy Bory's not here. Cheryl Hall.
Yes.
Pam Kraus.
Yes.
Yvonne
Yes.
Cruiser. Vivian Reisky.
Yes.
Vera Walters.
Yes.
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve Lori Wine as secretary passes.
Alrighty.
Okay. So process for electing a president, vice president, secretary is completed. And then, now I'm stuck.
You're on number 3?
Presentation and code of
There we go,
conduct.
okay. Presentation, discussion of code of conduct, conflict of interest law, opening meeting law, public records law, Parliamentary Procedure of City Attorney Joel Stern.
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be here. Pam doesn't invite me very often, but I'll come anytime you want me to be here.
We will see you all year long then. You're always invited.
Thank you very much. First of all, congratulations to the 3 new officers. I have to tell you this. I'm going to point it out because this board is the only board that has all women in the city that I know of. Unless, Pam, you think I'm wrong, or Sancy, you think I think this is it. I've never seen all women on one board and commission, so it's fascinating. It's great.
The first
It's-
time ever?
I have not
Okay.
seen the library board ever have all women.
Oh,
And in the other board and commissions, no, there's a man somewhere, you know.
yeah.
But anyway, congratulations. I mean, it's the first. I have not seen this before, so it's
Well,
great.
we are women, hear us roar.
Well, so some of you have heard this, I think, in the past. Raise your hand, who has heard my presentations? So 3 of you.
And me.
So that's Vivian?
Yeah.
Oh, then we have a quorum, so I don't have to do it, right?
Try.
Just kidding. No. I think you should all hear this at the same time. And that's why I'm going to every board and commission, and I've done that. I think this is the last board and commission. Council has requested it also on the 18th. So if you fell asleep during this one, then you could come to the council. It's a Tuesday night, and you could hear it again if you'd like, or watch it. So let's start with the code of conduct. And these are colored, different colored pages, so that's the yellow pages. I don't know if you have individual copies, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have them electronically, or do you not want to go through it that way? We can just. Oh, you don't? Okay. Then let's just go, I'll just go by, here it is, it's the yellow copy, and we can start. I am not going to read every single word unless you want me to.
No, please.
Okay, I didn't think you did. So I'm going to try to summarize it. First of all, this document is the city council's creation. And there had to be at least 4 or 5 meetings where this was cut down. Originally, it was 12 pages. I was asked to go look at other cities and towns, come up with a code of conduct, and I did. So now, it's not 12 pages. It's only 4. So, and, this suits the needs of the city council that was in place March 5th of 2019. So what is the basic thing you should do? The first section, act in the public interest. Always act in the public interest. Don't act in a personal interest of any kind whenever you're making decisions, recommendation decisions. Comply with the law, that's pretty straightforward. Professional conduct, this one took a while for the council. Actually, no, this was an easy one. This was just the appearance of impropriety. Don't let that happen. You could be voting on something that you may not have a conflict on. And we'll talk about conflicts later. But if you think, oh, I don't have a conflict, but how does it look? Does it look like you have a conflict? If it does, that's called an appearance of impropriety. So you could be chastised for that, and you may not get in trouble for it, but it certainly may not look good. And remember, this is televised, so everybody is seeing this. And so whenever you do a decision that looks like, oh, well, okay, maybe it's a relative, but it's not one of the relatives in the conflict of interest law, but it's a distant relative. Is it legal? It might be legal, but how does it look? It might be a second or third cousin that you're making a recommendation on for a contract. How's that look? Legally, you probably can, because it's really first cousins that they talk about under relative, and we'll talk about that later. But a second or third cousin, how's that look? And what if the same family name? That might look pretty bad. Going to public meetings and due process. This is pretty straightforward. However, everybody should have respect for each other. When you are speaking up there, you should always try to get the chair to give you the floor so that no one really should be interrupting unless it's something that is a point of order. Otherwise, if you have the floor, you should be speaking, and no one else should be interrupting you. Come prepared. Look at everything that is prepared for you. Read everything. Sometimes that doesn't happen in some board and commissions. Be fair and objective, respectful at all meetings. We've kind of already done that. And the council at the time said letters of the editor. If there's something, we don't really have a daily paper anymore, unfortunately, or a weekly paper. But if there's an editorial of some kind, and you are the one that got to put it in, be careful what you say. You are a library board member. If you say, as a library board member, I believe you should vote for the following people in the 2022 elections. Don't do that. Don't use your influence. Not that any of you would, but I have to point it out. Okay, moving on to advocacy. You don't lose your First Amendment rights by being a volunteer here tonight, or any night that you are on the board. But be careful what you say, especially on Facebook and other electronic media. Be very careful what you say, especially if people know that you are on this board, or you have said that you are on this board, or you start your communication that you are on this board. You can advocate, but be very careful what you say. If it's an item that's before the board, you shouldn't even be, in my opinion, you shouldn't even be talking about it on social media or anywhere else. Everything should happen in here. Unless you have some questions of your staff, if you want to talk about the decisions or how it would impact the library, you should be talking to each other in public here. That's how it should be done, not on social media. Now, people can't be here. They might want to write in, hey, when you go to the meeting, ask this question. That's fine. That's not a problem. And I don't know how many of you have a laptop right now, or you have your phone, and people from the outside are contacting you saying, hey, Lori just said this. Why didn't you ask her about that? Well, technically, they're not in the meeting. In my opinion, they shouldn't have the right to do that. But sometimes people disagree with me. Can you believe that? They actually believe this. So they say, no, we have a right to contact our board and commission members while they're up there, and we want you to ask that question. So can you do it? Yes, you can. Just be careful how you do it. And you can identify the person who's asking, but it brings in, some cities do this, some cities don't. The majority of them do not have that kind of ability yet, where people can call in, actually call them on the phone and actually do it, or do it by Zoom. They did do that during last year on some cities and towns and counties. Phoenix tried it, and it was a disaster. I don't remember what the issue was for our particular night, but I think it was an item that should have taken an hour, and it went for hours and hours and hours because they let people call in. And yeah, it was because of the virus. That was the excuse, but I don't think they still do that. So, okay, I'm sorry, I am getting off track. So I am off the agenda. I apologize, but Pam, you're going to correct me pretty soon here, or Sancy. But all this stuff really falls under all these categories some way or another. Non-interference with and treatment of staff. I think that's more of the respect issues. Gifts, in the state legislature, it's $25, like for a lobbyist. If they want to take you to a Cardinal game, and they want you to vote on something, it's like, okay, what are you getting in return for this? Well, up to $25 is not considered a gift. A Cardinal game ticket, and I haven't been watching the Cardinals, I just know they're doing well, or they were doing well. Can you imagine how much those tickets are now? So that's probably more than $25, so you probably should not accept it. Especially if it's someone who's going to be before this board, who's going to get some kind of contract, and they want you to vote for them. Don't do that. I talked about influencing elections. There's actually statutory provisions that prohibit the use of these premises, the use of the library to further an election. There's something called a free speech zone, and you will see this in this coming year. That's where, if you're running, people can actually show up. They could demand a space in front of the library, and they could bring a table. I think we do that voluntarily. And then they can talk to people as they come out of the library. Hey, I'm voting for you. You want to sign my petition? Yes, they can do that. Inside the library, I don't think they should be doing that because that's the use of the facilities to influence an election. Criticism of staff. Don't criticize these two staff members. They're wonderful. And they're right all the time, in my opinion. But you may disagree with what they're saying. But keep in mind, they are trained, they have years of experience, and when they recommend something to you, don't take it lightly. You may disagree with their end result, and you can state that, but do it in a respectful manner if you do disagree. Attendance at meetings, this one is on there because we've had in the past on some board and commissions where someone doesn't show up repetitively. And after 3, where they haven't contacted the library staff, that's considered, okay, you're in trouble. And now the library board can actually meet and vote for that person to be thrown off the board. And then it could go to council, and then council can decide. That has happened with planning and zoning. I think it happened once since I've been here 24 years, I think Board of Adjustment also, where someone just didn't call in, and they were gone for 3 times in a row. Hopefully, we don't have an attendance issue here. I can't imagine, but. Okay, rules of decorum, that's pretty much, that's common sense on when you show up here, how you react to people. And you probably don't get a lot of public here. In fact, do you ever get the public here? Here in these chambers?
Not since I've been, not here.
But in the old, where you used to meet?
Yeah, we had a public once. It was the editor of the newspaper.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a member of the public.
We invite the public. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you have call to the public, and we'll talk about that one later too. Okay, quasi judicial, that doesn't really apply to you too much because you're a recommending body to the city council. So you're not in a quasi judicial capacity like the Board of Adjustment is, where they decide cases, and then to appeal that, it doesn't go to the city council. It goes, someone would have to take it to the Superior Court. Some cities, that's different. I think the statute says if you have 100,000 people more, it goes to the council, but not in this. We have a lot less than that. So legal training, well, you're doing it now. And then I've already kind of talked about staff recommendations. So are there any questions on the code of conduct? Okay. Next is the conflict of interest, orange paper. So what is the object and purpose? Basically, it is to remove or limit the possibility of personal influence which might bear upon the public official's decision. Purpose is to prevent self-dealing by public officials and public employees. The new language that I have from the last time that I wrote this is the last sentence basically says, it is imperative that a public official have no personal interest that might clash or conflict with that of the state. So that's saying basically everything I just said in a different manner, in a little bit more, more understandably. And that was from a 1957 case. So what type of conflicts of interest? There's three types. The biggest one the one I'm going to talk about is what is a substantial interest. That is one that is a pecuniary or property interest. So in the case of the library, I would say the ones that would probably come up would be more of a pecuniary interest, money. So, for example, Pam mentioned we're going to have a consultant, and that person's going to get paid. So do you have any kind of relationship with that person that's of blood, marriage? First, do you have any relationship? If you do, if it's a friend, that's one thing. If it's a family relationship, business relationship, that's going to be a problem. You cannot vote on that item. Now, a relative, I talked about that a little earlier. So what is a relative? So not just you have some kind of relationship with that person. What if your relative does? So your significant other, your children. Well, if you read what a relative is, that's on page 6. I'm going to read this one because this is important. An individual within 2 degrees of kinship, including spouse, child, child's child, parent, grandparent, brother or sister of whole or half blood, and their spouses, and the parent, brother, sister, or child of a spouse. So that's kind of broad. It talks about, so that could be a cousin, but it says within 2 degrees of kinship. So probably not a second or third or fourth cousin. But do you want to play with that when you're here with, if the consultant is your fourth cousin, are you going to vote on that item? And people know that you have a kind of a family relationship some way through marriage or blood? Probably shouldn't, because there's an appearance of impropriety. It looks bad. But legally you can. So if you don't care how it looks, that's one thing. The issue next would be, well, are there exceptions to that rule? There are. And that's on page 3 through 4. And the most common one that I've seen is under J, class interest. It's on top of page 4. And the best way to explain this one, for at least the city council purpose, would be there was a church that came to the city. They needed an extension of their church height, because that's what their church beliefs are, that their height, the steeple is part of their religion. That's how they get communication from God. I believe that's what they think. I'm just paraphrasing that. So the mayor was part of that church. And did he have a conflict? Because they were going to come in and it was a zoning issue. That is a zoning issue that gets voted on. And the answer is, yes, it's a conflict. but it's a remote interest, so therefore it doesn't count. And you could vote on it because there's 10 or more in the class, 10 or more members of the church. There were at least 10 members in the church. So he could vote on it, and they got their steeple height increase. So I guess that could happen with library issues. You do get groups that come before you, and if you are a group that was, you were a member of that group or a religious institution or whatever it is, you could vote on whatever item involved that particular matter, whatever, or that particular club or whatever it was. Now, if you feel you have a conflict, what do? Well, you're supposed to withdraw until you get the attention of the chair, the president in this case, sorry. And you say, Madam President, firstly, you read the item, and then you get the attention of the president and say, I believe I have a conflict. And then you get out of here. Go back to Matt. Matt's watching this, by the way, right now. Sit with Matt, and you can watch the item. But don't participate in the item. Do not do that. Do not start texting someone who's here while you're back there saying, hey, let's see, Vera, yeah, vote this way. I know we have 3 other votes. And when you have a full complement, it takes 4. That's the quorum. You can't do that. You also cannot come down here and speak on that item. Oh, well, I'm a private citizen now, so here's why you should vote for this, or why you shouldn't vote for this. Don't do that. Don't go into the lobby, start talking to people if you ever do get a big crowd here and say, hey, can you get up there on this item and try to get it through? You can't influence that decision. So that is the law. And I do say get out of here because sometimes when we're not in this horrible virus thing and you don't have a mask, some people look at you or on TV, they can see your face and you're making faces, you know, yeah, I vote this way. And then you make a face at that person. That's kind of like a communication. That could influence others. So don't do that either. Now, if you really want to vote on it and you contact me, this is the law. Contact the city attorney. Give me all the facts. I will then do a memo that goes to the city clerk that explains all the facts regarding your particular situation, and that usually it's you don't have a conflict of interest. And then you can vote on it. And if you do, and I am wrong, nothing happens to you. You're good. The decision still might get voided. I might be in trouble, but you won't be, because you were relying on the decision of the city attorney of the city, and you can do that. Okay. So what could happen if there is a conflict? Well, bad things happen, and that is on page, let's see, I'm sorry. I think it's, well, page 5, removal from office could happen, and a bunch of other things. It could be voided, and you don't want that to happen. So, and then we got definitions. So we've already kind of talked about the biggest one, which was the relative. So are there any questions about conflicts? Okay, open meeting law. This is the purple page. You know, it's strange, when I did do the electronic copies, I'm sorry you didn't get those. This turns out blue when it's on the screen, and I don't know why. This is purple, right? I'm not colorblind, am I?
Purple.
Okay, so what is the open meeting law? What's the policy? The policy is so that public bodies be conducted openly at the meetings of public bodies, and that notices and agendas be provided for such meeting which contain such information as is reasonably necessary to inform the public of the matters to be discussed or decided. So we have an agenda here, and this is very specific. And I have to give credit to Santi and Pam. Because unlike number I-1, it says, welcome new library board members. And essentially, you make introductions. Well, the board and commissions that I have seen, that I've been doing this for the last 4 weeks, they don't have that item. They just go to it and say, hey, you're new. Why don't you discuss it yourself? And technically, it's supposed to be on the agenda, that item. So you are the only board that has done that. I want to say congratulations.
Nice work.
And she didn't call me first to put it on there either. She knew. So that's great. So that's an example of what's going to be on the agenda, what the public expects to see and hear, because you're not supposed to have an item that is not on the agenda. That's against the open meeting law. Why should you care? There's a bunch of reasons why. Personal liability, there could be some fines, removal from public office, recalls. That doesn't apply to you because you're appointed. But there is the embarrassment part. Now, when does this apply? It applies when there's a quorum of members. So it's 7 members. So 4 is a quorum. 4, it takes a majority to do anything in here. You have to vote. The majority gets things passed. That's a quorum. So, open meeting law. Can you all go to the city council? Like when your annual report is presented. I'm sure you kind of want to hear some comments about that annual report. It takes a long time to put together. And you kind of want to hear about it in person sometimes. Can you all sit in the second row where there's, 7 or more seats? And should you do that? No, you should not, because that's a quorum of you meeting. Unless it's posted that you're having a meeting, then you can. Now, there are some exceptions to this. The Attorney General has put out some for social events. But be careful, when you meet, people see you together, and they say, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? They're going to put in a new library somewhere? Are they talking about that again? Well, we want to hear that. Well, there's no meeting. It hasn't been agendized. But people get suspicious all the time, especially these days. They're suspicious about everything. They believe everything that's on Facebook. So be careful. There's some definitions, and you do come on one of these. It's called the public body. You are one of the recommending boards and commissions that essentially go to council. Your decisions go to council. So you are definitely covered. What's a meeting? I kind of already talked about what that is. We do have Vivian on the line right now. So the legislature extended this a number of years ago for electronic meetings also, because she's calling in. They didn't used to allow that. And then they did finally change that, I think, it may have been 10 or 12 years ago, I can't remember. But believe it or not, that was not allowed. So if there was only 3 members here tonight and Vivian called in, that's a meeting. Or you all could call in. And I think during last year, did everybody call in to meet the quorum? Oh, you didn't do those? Oh, you just canceled the meetings? Oh, that's sad.
More or less.
I didn't know, okay.
You talking about 2020 when we were middle of COVID? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
during the virus.
Yeah.
Did you have meetings?
Not in April and May, we didn't. We canceled those meetings.
Oh, okay. But then you did start them.
But we did, yeah, later on in the year we did.
And then
Yeah.
people could call in too if they couldn't make it.
Well, if they wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I called in once. In April and May might have been because there was nothing on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Could have been one of those issues.
I've done one
Well,
at the pool.
Oh,
anyway, that's what a meeting can be. It can be electronic also. It could be by Zoom, but it could also, I'd rather it be in public. It should always be in public, in my opinion, but. Okay, notice of the meeting, that has to be posted, and that is posted in 3 different places in the city, I think on the county complex also. We don't really have emergency meetings that often. We talked about agendas. And let's see, call to the public. We don't have public here much, but when you do, people can get up. They can talk about what's within your jurisdiction. If they're starting to talk about the election, yeah, I think you can gavel them, because now they're trying to use this microphone. If they would say, I'm so-and-so, and I am running for whatever, and here are my objectives. No, they get gavelled, because they cannot use these premises. Yes, there's a First Amendment, but that's an exception. They cannot use these premises to influence the election, and that is Title IX, 9-500.14, I believe. Minutes. Okay, right now, this is being televised. So technically, you don't even have to do minutes, but because these get put out on the internet, and they do it within so many days. However, you still do minutes. You approve minutes. Do they have to be verbatim? No, they do not. And back in 2018, 2019, I got accused of lying to the P&Z, saying, oh, they don't have to be. Well, guess what? They don't have to be. It went to the Attorney General's office, and they agreed with me. No, they don't have to be verbatim. And I think I got a bar complaint over it, because the individual who was accusing me of that was insistent. And he was wrong. He was completely wrong. And so after that, he's just started voting no on all the minutes from the rest of his term. And then ultimately quit because he was upset. But you don't have to have verbatim minutes. Is it great to have them? Oh, yeah, it is, because we had a deputy city clerk who would take the notes of the council. And they weren't verbatim, but they were close. And so when you go back and look at an item 10, 12 years ago, instead of, and you know, we didn't have these taped either. So you'd have to listen to a recording instead of the video. But when we didn't, if someone wanted to just look at the record, they would look at those minutes, and it was great to have all that detail. But the law says all you have to have, and that took a while for, her name was Jan Mason, and she did a wonderful job on those minutes. But it took her probably 5 to 10 hours a week to do them, which is a lot of staff time, and you don't have to do it. So you have to say what the item is, what was voted, who voted, how they voted, and any public that came up. That's all you have to do with the minutes. So I just wanted to point that out. There are some exceptions, but there's not very many. Most of them are statutory. That's on the top of page 7. And I believe that's it for open meeting law, unless you have a question. Okay. Now we're on the, whatever, is that turquoise? I don't know what color that is. Public records law. Public records and other matters in the custody of any public officer shall be open to inspection for any person at all times during business hours. And the core purpose is to allow public access to official records and other governmental information so that the public may monitor the performance of government officials and their employees. It's called the Arizona Public Records Act. There's a difference between that and the Freedom of Information Act. Some people would say, hey, I did a FOIA and we got the records. Well, no, you did a Public Record Act request, because FOIA is for federal. FOIA, and yes, we have to go by FOIA if Arizona law doesn't address whatever particular issue the person's bringing up. But usually it's just a public record request. Why should you care? Well, there's all sorts of reasons, but the way it works is Pam might get a public record request. And there are a lot of exceptions, but generally speaking, someone might want her budget for the year. Well, that's an easy one, because that's on the internet. That's whatever the city council put out that approved. Well, say they want to see what she's working on right now. Where are you on that budget? I want to see the draft. Technically, it's a draft. One could argue, you don't get that because it's a draft. On the other hand, what's the real harm in giving out a draft? So you give it out. Can it be redacted? Meaning, do you black out certain things if there are privacy issues? Yes, you can. So can someone get a patron's record of looking up stuff, what books, whatever documents? Bless you. The answer is no. That one is excluded. They cannot, that's actually federal law. So they cannot get that. And there's also a state statute that mirrors that. If we had a subpoena for that, so there's a court action going on, they say, oh, we get to see Joel Stern's record of the library and what he's asked for and checked out. And so what happens with that? Well, we could redact certain things so people cannot see exactly what I got, and that might be another way to do it. But categorically, I'd say, no, you're not entitled to that. So we don't even have to redact anything. You're not getting it. Sue us. If there's a subpoena, now it has to go before a judge if I have to object to it. Not just not my record, but anybody's. And I say, no, we got to protect patrons. And the statute should do that, and the judge should just throw out the subpoena based on that. But sometimes you get some odd judges, and that doesn't work. So you have to go to court, and you have to file a motion. That hasn't happened too often, and I don't want to do that, but sometimes we might have to. So the answer is on how quickly do you have to provide these records? Well, the legislature, I shouldn't say too much about that, but they say promptly. So what does that mean? Is that 2 days, 3 days, 10 days? They didn't really define that. And because of that, there were challenges on what promptly meant. So there's some case law that I have put in prompt disclosure on page 2. What is prompt disclosure? Basically, if I get a stack of 1,000 pages, and now I've got to go through that, does that mean I have to put aside everything I'm working on? Because the answer is yes, unless it affects the operations of the city and burdens the city to a degree that's unreasonable. And the way it works is someone would do a public record request to the city clerk. They'd send it out to whatever department it affects. Say it's Pam. Pam would then have to compile these records, give them to me for me to look at to see if there's any privacy issues that need to be redacted. And then I would then give it back to the city clerk saying, okay, these are disclosable. That's usually how it works. So promptly means I have to do it promptly, but so does she. She has to get them to me promptly, and then we have to get them out promptly. And there's some case law in here that some people might think is fascinating. I do, but some people might not. But there are cases where I remember a City of Tucson case, they took forever and ever, months and months, and then they didn't provide the right documents. And then there were things missing, and they got in trouble, and that was probably about 2 years ago. They got hit with an attorney fee of $300,000. So that's what happens when you don't do it promptly. You get in trouble, especially if they can prove that you basically sandbag the other side. That's a legal term, by the way. So there are some exceptions, and the three are, and it's from a case called Carlson: statutory confidential exclusions, privacy interests, and best interests of the state. So it's kind of like it's a weighing test of, okay, do the interests of the public outweigh the interests of the private individual? Now, there's some privacy issues: date of birth, address, email address, phone numbers. Those things, I consider those personal identifying, social security number, personal identifying factors that someone could use to basically commit fraud. So I do not give those out. Date of birth, you have to give out usually the year and the month. You don't have to give out the day, but the year you have to give out for sure. And some people argue, well, you have to give out the day too, like in victim cases, but I don't do that. I just give out, like for criminal cases, when we redact a police report. It's the month and the year, and that's all we do. People complain about that all the time, but I'm sorry, that's privacy. Because they could match that information up on the internet, find that person's date of birth. Have you ever Googled yourself? Well, people have that out there. They have your date of birth. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but they may have your address, and it's just horrible what technology has done to personal privacy, in my opinion. So you have to be careful what you give out, because it might be a piece that someone can't get, and now they got it, and they match it up, and then they commit fraud. Anybody could obtain a public record, and you can't ask them why they need it, which I think is ridiculous, but that's the law. And so during a lawsuit, litigation, you would think, okay, do you want some records? Well, you do it through Rule 15, which is the disclosure rule. You have to ask for it in a motion, in discovery. It's called discovery. Well, in this state, you don't have to follow that. If you're in litigation, you could do a public record request in the middle of a lawsuit and say, well, I want those documents. And, I don't like that, but some states don't allow that if you're in litigation. This state does. This state is probably the most open state on public records, more so than California too, by the way, which is amazing to me. Like in California, you go to LA County and you want to look up, I don't know, you want to see where Jewel lives, okay? And you want to see what house in Beverly Hills she has. That is blocked. That information is blocked. Not in Arizona. If there's a superstar or anybody, you could look up their names. There are some exceptions for maybe judges and prosecutors, but they have to file a petition to get that blocked. So it's interesting how the state laws can be quite different. There's a commercial purpose and a non-commercial purpose. We can charge 25 cents a page if it's a regular non-commercial purpose, 50 cents for a commercial purpose. And then after that, there's miscellaneous case law and authorities. I suggest you read this, and if you want any case, I can get you the case without any problem. Any questions? Okay, our last one. Parliamentary procedure. So what you did tonight, you picked some officers. And yeah, it's a pain, isn't it? It's a pain. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? And then another time. Well, why is that? Why 3 times? Well, this has some history. Henry Martin Robert. That's the guy who wrote Robert's Rules. Everybody has heard of Robert's Rules, I would hope. And essentially, he was a soldier. He was told by his commanding officer to go to some church meeting, and it was some kind of town hall meeting. This is back in the 1870s. And it didn't go well. And he came back and he said, I'm writing a procedure book on this. This is ridiculous, and how people just cut in and interrupt, and we don't know what we're talking about. So he did. And so we are now, I believe, on the 11th or 12th edition of Robert's Rules from the 1870s. That's amazing, isn't it? I think it is. Now, these are meant for really fraternal organizations, religious organizations, not necessarily cities and towns. It wasn't really written that way. So there's a lot of things in Robert's Rules that just aren't applicable. And if you try to apply them, you get into weird situations. One being the nomination 3 times. I think that's in there, and I've tried to research it, but I think it's in there because back then there was no microphones, and you might have a big hall. So you had to say it 3 times so that everybody heard it, and they might at the last minute have another nomination. I think that's the most reasonable interpretation of that. We still do it. It's kind of like just a cultural thing, I guess. If you don't do it, what happens? I think the person still gets nominated. But it's kind of cool to keep some of the culture there. I kind of like that. So I'm the parliamentarian according to the code. The goals are 1 through 7. Those are really easy ones to understand. and they're just basically common sense. Everything has to be done by a majority vote when it passes. Everybody has equal rights and privileges to make motions, to ask questions, to speak and vote. Minority views may be heard and considered. They don't have to be adopted, because it's the majority rules. It's a direct and simple process. There is a requirement to follow the basic motion rules. Generally, one question at a time is considered, and voting members must be impartial. So, motions, those are pretty easy to do. Page 2, I've listed the most common ones. Objecting to a procedure, I guess it's not a real motion, it's an action. So if someone's speaking and they have the floor and they're totally off the agenda, someone could interrupt and say, Madam President, a point of order. And the president has the discretion to say, yes, what is your point of order? What's your objection? Or you could ignore that person. But hopefully there's respect, mutual respect among everybody here. And you would say, yeah, okay, I know Lori has the floor. However, Cheryl said point of order. So Cheryl, what is your point of order? Okay, thank you for telling me your point of order. I disagree, and so you're overruled, and keep going, Lori. I mean, that's what you could do. That's be a scenario. And then nomination of officers is pretty much the summary of what you did tonight on each of the 3 officers. I have nothing else unless you have any questions. Wow, no questions. Okay. Well, thank you for listening to this. I really appreciate it, and I hope it wasn't too boring. And if you want to listen to it again, once again, the council, the day after MLK Day, I'll be doing it again.
And if we ever have questions, your office,
Call me.
call you. Okay.
Call me direct. You know, I usually give out a card, but it's, you could find me, it's 474-5104. You can call me anytime you want. I'll meet with you. We can talk about any conflict or any other issues regarding any actions, or I know you don't have complaints about staff, so we won't talk about those. Anything else, Pam or Sancy, that I missed?
That was very thorough, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Am I dismissed, or do you want me to stick around for the next one?
You're dismissed.
Oh, okay. Well, once
Thanks
again,
for staying this late.
it's an honor to be here, and if you ever need me, I will be happy to come to your meetings.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Have a great holiday.
Thank you, you too.
Okay,
You too.
I'll see you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joel.
All right, so the next item is library standards of accepting behavior policy update discussion and possible vote on updates made on the policy. Pam?
Thank you. On the screen is our current library standards of acceptable behavior policy. As you can see, it is a short 1.5-page listing of behaviors that are not acceptable in our public library. I don't know how dated this policy is, but I want to say it's probably over a decade old, if not older. And when you're a librarian in today's age, I really feel like it's important to have a very professional and structured policy for standards of acceptable behavior, because oftentimes we need something to point to as a librarian when we do unfortunately have to address some behaviors that we wish we didn't have to. And we're finding that oftentimes this policy is not detailed enough. It's on the vague side. So we did do some looking at some other library systems in the area and what their policy looked like. And I don't know what I did when I came here tonight, but it was in your email last week, but when I copied this document over to the desktop, I lost the first page. So this new document that I'm proposing that we continue with is a more professional format, an outline format that gives a lot more detail as to details of unacceptable behavior and what that looks like in a library setting. So I just wanted to give you like a brief example. In our current policy, for instance, it says, where is it? Unruly and offensive behavior, right down here. Well, what exactly does that look like? I mean, that could be a myriad of different things. And to avoid pushback on those types of things, we would prefer to have something a little bit more detailed. So in our rewrite of this, under section 2, which should have read disruptive behavior, 2.14 is unruly offensive behavior, but it also says any behavior that endangers the safety or health of others, such as fighting, throwing objects, boisterous behavior, rude noises, talking loudly, excessive noise, abusive language or gestures, or in any way harassing library patrons or staff. So this is something that we feel much more comfortable when we do have those instances where we do need to address somebody's behavior and have something to point to sometimes to prove our point. So basically what this revision is just taking our current standards and making them more robust and in a more professional format. And again, I apologize for that missing first page. Is this something that you would like to go ahead and discuss or approve tonight?
I do have a question on 4.1, abandonment of young children.
Yes.
I know that's an issue that's been ongoing there, but do we want to specify time frame or what age group, if it looks like the kid is under 15? So that, because I've seen so many children, I'm like, where's your parent? And
So in a policy, we try to keep it somewhat vague in case our process does change later on. That way we don't have to come back and change the minor details. But our process for abandonment of young children or leaving children unattended in the library is 9 years or 9 years or older can be by themselves at the library. But if we put that in the policy and we do change it later, we have to come back because it's a policy to revise it again. So we do have that probably under, I don't have my procedures with me at the moment, but it's probably either under our procedures or our process.
and when doing abandonment, does that mean completely leaving the building or just being in a different part of the building?
That's
Just
true.
clarification. I'm just-
Yeah.
I've been in the building.
Let me see if we have something further on here that discusses.
I just keep talking to parents, and that's one issue that keeps coming.
Okay, we do have children leaving children under the age of 9 years old, so we did put it in as, even though it's something that we've talked about over the years, whether we wanted to increase that age, we have put that in. So if we did later on decide we wanted to increase that age, we would need to come back to the board for discussion. But this says, leaving children under the age of 9 years old or adults requiring supervision alone, unattended, or unsupervised. So yes, abandonment is clearly abandonment, like dropping off a child and leaving them on the library.
If they're under 9.
If they're under 9. So if you prefer, we could definitely add that statement to the end, abandonment of young children ages, let's see,
Or just reference.
under the age of 9.
I feel like it should be there. It is there.
I feel like they should be together. 4.1 and 4.1, or 4.4 should kind of,
It's basically the
The
same
same
thing.
but 4.4 is more detailed of what exactly, it's like explaining it, which I like.
So just get rid of 4.1 altogether?
That seems
We're adding-
reasonable.
Or adding abandonment of children under the 9 years.
Yeah, because we do say leaving children alone, unattended, or unsupervised. Is that the same as abandonment? I guess that's,
Yeah, I would think.
Abandonment almost sounds like they're never gonna come and get them.
it is a strong word. Yeah.
I don't know if,
I
if
mean,
you
it's like
get
leaving
that.
the children. Are they leaving the building or though, or are they just leaving that area and not watching their children? I mean. I
Right,
take
so
both.
unsupervised would definitely be like leaving the area, or our children's area is quite big, and we do have times when a child will be left in the play area and the parent goes over to, you know, the nonfiction, juvenile nonfiction, which is kind of in a different room, and there isn't really clear eyesight. So in that case, we would classify that as being unsupervised.
Right.
You know, we try to be reasonable in terms of expectations, because we understand that sometimes kids wander off and whatnot, but if it's somebody, or an instance that we see multiple times over, or if it's clearly a parent is, or a caregiver is on the computer in the adult area and their kids are in the youth area, that's clearly unsupervised. But I think it's the word abandonment that we're having the,
Yeah, 'cause I've seen it where I've been there, it's small little children and
Like
parents not even in the building.
under 9.
Oh, yeah, easily. And it's multiple times, and they swear up and down they're in the building, but won't lie. It does take a while to make rounds to find out, but it's like, I don't feel that's the staff's job to try to track down a parent.
well, and we have our security worker, so that is his job.
Oh, I know. I just hear things, so.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we have some clarification, so that way when it comes up, it's like, you know, this is here for everyone's protection.
So would you prefer more detail for 4.1, or did you want to combine combine abandonment in 4.4, or what?
I like combining the two together.
I think 4.4 covers
4.1,
Right.
Yeah.
Remove 4.1 altogether?
yeah.
Is everybody?
Do we make a motion?
Maybe,
I mean, yeah, if you want, you can make a motion for that change of language, or for omitting 4.1 and just leaving 4.4 alone, or I can add wording to 4.4.
well, what if you just moved 4.4 as 4.1, so that that's at the beginning of that section?
Okay,
And if you have children, comma, leaving children under the age.
so they should do a motion.
A motion to make the change from 4.4, adding it to 4.1, so abandonment of young children, if I'm understanding this correctly, comma, and then, or period, leaving children under the age of 9 years old. Is that how you want it to read?
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds good.
Okay, so then you want to make a motion for 4.4 to add to 4.1 with the correct
Glad you
verbiage.
explained it all for me, thank you.
Mhm.
So I'd like to put a motion in to take 4.1 and add after children a comma, and then add the 4.4 up to go underneath, or behind that whole statement. So it'd read abandonment of young children, comma, leaving children, etc.
And I'll second that motion of what she said. So then everything, it'll be 4.1 through 4.4 in that.
And then obviously 4.4 would not be there, so 4.5 would become
Everything like that.
4.4 and so forth.
Do I get a second?
I did.
Lori seconded. So we just need to do a roll call. Okay, Judy Bory is not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes,
Lori Wine.
Yes.
Okay, it passes, motion passes.
And then one other question, sorry.
Sure.
The e-cigarette, is that the same as vaping nowadays, or is that a different terminology? I saw they were talking about that.
My understanding of like an e-cigarette looks more like a cigarette, and like a vape, I don't know if it's called,
I just know that you had written something about that, but I just didn't see that under there, so I wasn't sure.
I think we just tried to include as much terminology as possible that somebody could call those, but I think a vape device, I don't even know what it's called.
I think it's still a vape. The e-cigs,
Yeah, I don't.
Is a vape an e-cig?
it still uses the vape. I
Vape
mean, it still
technology?
uses- yeah.
But are they called the same thing?
No.
E-cig.
So if we go someplace and they void e-cigs, could you vape there, or would you get in trouble? That's where I don't know the
Oh, if
terminology.
It's where
Somebody-
somebody could split the
Split
term depending on, my understanding is e-cigs and vape pens are different
devices.
devices.
That's what
yeah.
my understanding was too. And then we wanted to include anything that,
Because the e-cigs don't take the flavored vapes.
I guess I don't know that. Anything
I don't know
about
any
it.
of this stuff, that's why I'm.
I only know it because I
So-
worked around a bunch of mechanics,
So
so.
it doesn't have any, it's not gonna offend anybody if
Oh, yeah,
somebody's-
it'll
okay.
offend, but
So
the
that's,
vapes.
that's the point, we don't want any offensive.
So the e-cigs are more
Smell
like
like
the
smoke.
nicotine, like an actual
Cigarette.
cigarette. And the vape pens, they can actually vape different flavors.
Right, and you get the big
Yeah,
vapes.
yeah, that's my understanding.
So do
I-
you
So
wanna
how do
include
you-
that
how
with
do
the
you have it in here?
terminology or not for
Just,
the tobacco and all that stuff that you put in?
what number is that? Do you recall?
2.12.
It's probably the page I'm missing.
It's 2.12.
Oh, here it is,
2.12.
2.12.
Because I saw the e-cig, but I didn't see vaping, and that's where my question came, but I'm not educated to know the terminology on those, so.
Okay.
I would just put it in just to cover yourself. Because people split hairs.
Well, it doesn't say, yeah, I agree.
So maybe put the synthetic marijuana, comma, e-cigarettes or vape.
Is that a motion you're saying?
I'm just discussing right now, but. Are you saying you want that as a motion?
I'm thinking so.
Okay, so I make a motion on 2.12 that we put in, blah, 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 marijuana, comma, e-cigarettes, comma, or or vaping. I don't know what the proper word would be for that.
So it's marijuana,
Comma.
this is interesting, marijuana, comma, e-cigarettes or
Maybe just
other
put vape pens.
vaping
Devices.
devices.
go.
Okay.
That's the word I was looking for.
I second that. And then we do a roll
Not
call.
quite sure how to do this, because, so do we want to make this all part of the approval for the, because you just approved the whole acceptable behavior, so this would be,
They didn't, they just approved 4
We-
point,
right, so this is part of that.
Yeah, we're still discussing. We haven't approved the whole.
they haven't approved the whole document yet, they're just still identifying
Fine,
different.
points.
They did approve the whole document, though.
They did?
Yeah,
No.
that was what the last motion was.
I thought that was just for the
It was-
4.1.
No, that was-
4.4.
Well, it was, but after we did that, because that was approval of the update, so then we went back. So I
Oh.
guess we could split it into two. I'm not really sure how to do that. Okay, so who made the motion?
I did.
Yvonne?
Wrong.
Okay, and who made the second, Pam?
Pam.
Okay. All right, let's do a roll call vote, and Judy Bory's not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
and Lori Wine.
Yes.
Maybe we should have kept Joel here a little longer. So, I'll have to go back and listen to the video when we're done, because I guess I didn't take it that
Well,
way, but I
mean,
guess we did. I don't
Ideally,
know.
it would have been if we'd have made the changes we were going to make to
Oh, and
whatever sections we were going to make, and then at the end of that, put those things together and then approved the updates as a whole. Does that make sense?
Okay, I thought we could still do pieces and have to do a motion for
Yeah.
each piece.
It's just
But-
a little bit easier that way.
Yeah,
It's okay, it's
well,
a little easier.
we're just making a lot of work for you, Sansi.
That's okay.
I had a question. Isn't theft a criminal offense?
It is. I think that's the page I'm missing, which,
That's page 1.
yeah.
It seems like.
The very
if you
first one,
listed all the criminal offenses.
does the first item under that section say something to the effect of anything that goes against city or state?
Misuse or vandalism of library
that's
facilities.
1.2, that any act that constitutes a
No, that's
criminal
the-
offense under
oh.
federal, state, or local law. And then 1.3 is theft.
So what are you suggesting then, Vera?
Just leave off theft, because if you listed all the criminal offenses, theft is one, but
There's many others.
there's many others, and we're not listing all of them. Why list one?
I think that's why 1.2 is there, to cover anything we might have missed. Because I think everything under number 1 is considered criminal, isn't it?
I was just gonna say, because 1.4, 1.5,
Well, perhaps not 1.10.
but the others
Oh,
are,
no, I don't think staring at someone is illegal.
no,
But
but the
vandalism,
vandalism, which one, where was the staring one?
1.6.
1.6.
exhibitionism is.
Peeping is illegal.
I think it actually helps to have these things listed out, just so that people have a clear understanding of what we mean by illegal conduct, as opposed to just leaving it really open, because then you're going to have a constant conversation going on where the staff has to confront somebody and they don't have the specifics to say, this is something we don't allow here. I agree that there is a whole plethora of other things that are not included, but I think having at least these basic things listed is kind of helpful.
I think we listed the ones that tend to be most prevalent in libraries, which would be vandalism, theft.
Right.
And then we included 1.2 in there. Maybe it wasn't the best place to put it because it's kind of sandwiched between the other two, but to catch all the other things that we could encounter. If you want, well, I'm not going to say anything because that's your
No,
decision,
that's
but,
fine, that's fine.
okay.
It's not a big issue.
Okay.
I did have one question. Where is this posted for patrons to be able to look at it?
We currently don't have this policy posted anywhere. It has not been posted. But that was something that we were discussing when we were doing the revisions, is that we believe it should be posted, but we didn't come to a decision on where it should be posted.
I would recommend it be on the website for sure.
Yes,
And
yes.
then-
We definitely do have it on the website, but I mean, in terms of a physical copy where a person that was walking by could consult it if they were curious.
Yeah.
When somebody applies for a library card, are they given any indication of their responsibility in the library?
No, they're not. In terms of behaviors,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
No. I guess it's assumed that they would act appropriate in a public space.
And when they don't, then you can hand them.
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes less is more.
Could you please review this?
Did you have any
Any other?
recommendations of where, if you feel it should be posted, where to post it? We're such a big building, and it's kind of a weird document to post somewhere. It's
Where people check out materials, where they talk to the librarians at the desk, or where they check out, I think would be good places, because that's where people are probably going to stop the most.
I feel like between the two drop box, because it's gonna be the only thing there, right across from the fish tank. Because
Okay.
everybody walks through there, and it's the one thing where I like your idea, but there's so much stuff that goes on at that front desk, and I think a lot of times that will get overlooked.
Yeah, because of the shape of the desk, and
All the
we have a lot of other brochures and pamphlets up there.
Where that way, if you come back, that's usually where you drop it off as you enter. But if you come through the Friends of the Library area, there's not a really good one in that area. That's gonna
Yeah.
be the one that's gonna be hard to do, unless
Yeah.
there's room in that little entryway. So,
It's interesting when you go to a public place, like a park or something, there's all these do not, do not, do not, do not. You know, we always laugh, do not play, do not have a good time, don't smile. You know,
I know, you hate to put up negativity, because
Right.
you don't want to,
right,
introduce that into the environment. But on the other hand, if you don't have it up, then that's when our policy, or our process for dealing with patrons who have exhibited unacceptable behavior would be at that point when we go up to them, say, excuse me, we have noticed you're doing such and such, and then give them the policy. And at that point, they might be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't allowed to do that.
Maybe even put one in that larger bathroom, because I know there's extra little notes for reminders of people to not leave things behind in that bathroom too.
The family restroom?
Clothing and stuff, it's like, please take it out,
Yeah.
you know.
Because it's such a big room.
That might be a good place too for a second one if we need it.
Okay.
Does anybody have any more recommendations?
I don't think so. So would we make the nomination to accept the revised library standards of acceptable behavior?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Approval of updates with all the changes that you guys make, we'll make this, and then this will be our
Yes.
everything.
There you
Yes.
go. We'll feel much more complete.
Okay.
And
And
Joe will be very proud of us.
yes, it's very professional of us.
I second it.
Okay, Lori and Pam. And roll call, Judy is not here. Cheryl Hall,
Yes.
Pam Kraus,
Yes.
Yvonne Cruiser,
Yes.
Vivian Reisky,
Yes.
Vera Walters,
Yes.
and Lori Wine.
Yes.
Update passes.
Okay, let's move on. Any future agenda items?
I'd like to suggest that at the next meeting, not now, but sometime in the future, we are so sad that we don't have a public newspaper. And now getting the word out to people on what's going on is getting so difficult and so frustrating. And I see wonderful events at the library that are poorly attended, and I know it's because people didn't know about it. So I'd like to kind of brainstorm what we could do to help that situation. And it's not just the library, it's everything that goes on in AJ now.
Right, I agree. You know, you
It's so
find out
hard.
after the fact when we
Yeah.
get our monthly newspaper. I get the Daily Independent in my inbox, but then, you do have to subscribe to get further information too, so.
I like the article that's in the Superstition Living or whatever that is from Gold Canyon. It's very informative, but I don't get that because I don't live there. But yeah, if we could think about that between now and the next meeting and see what we come up with.
Sounds good.
I got a couple items.
Okay.
I've been stockpiling for a while. With school going on, a lot of kids have to do AR points for their books, and that's not a filter or category at our library. I don't know how hard that would be to incorporate into our already system, to be able to just to search, hey, because I found like an author, but they go from a 2.6 to a 6. So this makes it very easy for parents to know exactly which books would cover that area. I know there is a separate website for that you can type in, but just didn't know if that was something we could look into.
So are you looking more for a way to tag books?
Well, just if we do a search as part of the filter, I need to filter and I need an AR book from 2.0 to a 4. Is there any way that we can do something like that as part of the filter?
In our library catalog?
Yes, ma'am. And that's why I didn't know if it was something we could even incorporate or not, or if it'd be hard.
It doesn't do that? I thought it did.
No, it doesn't do Lexile scores, or it's not part of the cataloging information that's, that a public library normally puts into its MARC records.
Pam, for those who don't know, can you explain what the AR is?
It's something the teachers require your kids to read.
It's a accelerated reader, is
So,
AR.
accelerator, your kid has to be whatever grade, or you're supposed to be at a certain level, and that's what the AR is your teacher would be like, your kid is reading, you know, oh, they've excelled, or they're not quite where they need to, try to push them to get them in that group of what fits their age group.
So then each book would have the number, like a 1 point,
Yeah,
whatever, say,
1.2 to
would be
6.2.
first grade level. I don't know how it all
I'm still
goes,
learning
but.
too, so.
So are you thinking like when you go to our library catalog and you put in a keyword, or you put in a subject or a title or an
On the
author,
right, you have those filters of like. this
that
wide-
there would be an AR filter?
Yeah. I just don't know if that'd be difficult with the system we have right now, or we'd have to get a new one, but. it's
And
just-
our system is countywide, so it's not just our library, but it's all the libraries in Pinell County. I can definitely ask.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was, because like I said, I didn't know we even had it, and then my daughter's like, oh, we have to have this, so I have to go here, go on my phone, type it in to find the other one to see if the book category is what she needs or not.
Right, because
And
if you go
then
to AR
go
Book
to
Find, you can
library
do
and
it, but then you got to see if your
I
library
guess that's
owns
what I
it.
was
You need
doing
like 2
when I had
screens
that.
up when you do it, so it's kind of a pain some days. Because like some of the authors, they go from like a 2.0 to a 6.0. I
Yeah,
was like, just stay in one area here.
yeah.
A second one I had, and I blame my niece for this, there's places, and I know they're bookstores, but people pay to go in and you sit with kittens, cats, pets, and you can read a book and get loved. And I didn't know if this is something we could maybe one day incorporate with Paws and Claws when they have kittens and have like a kitten room that they can adopt maybe eventually, but at least, you know, it's kind of nice for the people that are lonely. They love cats. I mean, they're making business out of it, so, but.
So let me tell you a little bit about Paws to Read. So Paws to Read is a 501c3. They provide their own insurance on the animals that are in their program. So like when we had them first come to our library, that was the first question I got. Well, what about liability? What if a dog bites somebody? And I actually did have that happen, not at Apache Junction, but at a different library. Well, their insurance company took care of the claim and everything, so it wasn't the library's responsibility. So my question, I guess, for you would be, if we're bringing in a kitten, which is not a therapy animal, at least I don't, normally they wouldn't be, because they have to get older, I think, before they can be trained. And it's not a service animal, I don't know if we could have it in a public building.
It's just an idea.
I know, I love your idea, because I love cats. I mean, I'm a librarian, who doesn't
Then
love
you
cats
would
and
I think
librarian?
A lot of people, I've seen people, they just sit there and they just have the cat sit on them and they read, and they're
Right,
it seems to help both people a lot.
it does,
And with COVID and everything, not being able to be close to people, it was just an
yeah.
option to get some affection without worrying about anything in the process.
I totally agree. I don't know if it's possible in our space, but,
That room that's right next to the knitting room that's used as a storage room, that's all covered up with purple paper, I don't know if that could be used.
actually, that room, so it has been holding our furniture that we had to kind of take away from the public during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we've been going through things and deciding what we wanted to keep and other things that we might want to replace. So we're almost to the end of it, but the goal for that room in February is to be our tax prep room for AARP, because they need to have 7 stations set up simultaneously. I mean, I do understand that. I don't know also if there's any public laws in terms of people that have allergies to cats,
Oh, yeah.
that, and things
I
like
think-
that too.
I think your biggest thing is going to be liability.
Yeah,
I think so too, and I don't know if our
Yeah.
risk management company would take on that,
You're right.
probably not.
Yeah,
See, that we should have kept Joel here, he would have known this answer,
right.
You can tell me no. So,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, it's a great idea, but I
Yeah.
think.
I know, and I
liability is
totally feel you,
big.
because I would love, because I know there's one down in Phoenix, you can go in, and I think you pay a fee to sit there for an hour, and the
Like
cats come.
$50 an hour.
Is it that much?
Or at least in the cities, that's how much my niece.
Right. And then also, if you're gonna have coffee and stuff, there's probably food permits and stuff. I don't know how all that works with cats, but I don't think it's possible. I will try to look into it a little bit, but I,
Okay, I got 2 more ideas quick.
okay, all right.
my
Um,
bedtime.
I sent it to Penny earlier, so she's already fully aware, and she has the picture and everything. What it is, it's a brick And it's a small one, but you can either paint or like pod, like a book cover onto it, so it looks like a book. So instead of painting your rocks, it'll look like a book. So I didn't know if that was something that you want to do in a program. It could go for kids or adults, and they can use it in their gardens or whatever, but it was just a cute little idea. I thought was cute.
Is it something you have a picture of?
Yes, I do.
Maybe it's something you can send to me and/or Penny.
Yeah, Penny has it. I sent it.
Oh, she does.
I talked to her right before the meetings happened to run into her.
Okay,
so I
well, I'll
talked
talk to
her.
Penny and see what her thoughts are on that. So it's a book,
It's a rock that they
Rock.
painted to look like a book.
rock looks like book.
But I just thought it was really cute. And I can show you guys
Okay.
pictures too. And then we had, like she had mentioned earlier, therapeutic animals that kids can read to. There was a bird called Buddy. He's like one of 7 in America. And he was supposed to long live his owner. Well, he happened to pass away. And that part, I was wondering if you could do it like a Buddy area and do pictures of Buddy and donate that. So we have that, like, go to the Buddy's Corner, and that's where people know where to go. I didn't know if we could do some type of dedication to him.
We've already been talking about that. Penny has
Yeah, I talked
been
to her about
looking.
that, so.
We were having differences in what aesthetically, what type of plaque or sign over there we thought would be, would look right for that area. But it is something that we were talking about, and I think it just got covered up by other stuff that's come up. But I'll definitely bring that up with Penny. And if you had an idea of something that you thought would look nice, I really wanted to have like his real photo in the plaque because he was such a gorgeous macaw.
Well, I'd like to get a picture of him, and then if people would be willing to donate the pictures they took of their children with him,
Okay.
go around it,
Oh, so like a bigger, like a,
a little more, well, just, there's a lot of kids there, but I mean, he's been around forever. I've been here 8 years, and I think he's been here.
so it would have to be something where those photos could be embedded into
Do it like a
something.
collage or something, yeah.
Okay. Because I would want it to be something permanent that hopefully after a couple years isn't going to start to, curl and ravel and warp or whatever. So I would want it to be
Glass over.
something that's lacquered or
Mod Podge.
Thank you.
Mod Podge. Okay, so Buddy Corner. So I'm feeling these aren't really agenda items, but things that you would like us to investigate, and I can bring it back to the group, of course, but more like Pam's peeves. Just kidding. Mine too.
Told you I've been stockpiling for a couple.
No, I know, that's good. You feel free, you can always send them to
That's
me
why you're
too.
president.
Yeah.
No, I just talk to Penny nonstop all the time.
Going off of the big animal theme we're having here, I know in Tucson, they did, the library down there, when I used to live down there, did a thing with the Humane Society where on like free adoption days, they would bring the animals to the library park and kids would read to them, and usually half, if not all of the animals would get adopted by guilt-ridden parents. Have we ever thought of combining our efforts with the Humane Society and AJ to do something like similar?
We have an event coming up here in January, and I've actually mentioned to do that between the two parties. And I talked to Paws and Claws, and they said the only issue about doing that at this time of year is all the animals are adopted.
Because of Christmas.
Yep. So
We
that's
did
the only
do it.
problem, so.
I would say about 4 years ago, we did do exactly that. We had an event, and I believe it was in the park, right, between Parks and Rec and us, that, And, yeah, they brought, it wasn't just Paws and Claws, though. I think we also had a couple other Apache Junction local rescues that were invited. It wasn't my program, but they did have, where people could come look at the animals. I don't know if they did, I know they did kids' crafts, but I don't know if they did reading with the animals. But I know that there were, a lot of the animals were adopted. So it is something we have done, but we haven't done in a while.
Awesome.
So let me write that down. I got a big list.
Yes, you
I'm so proud of you. Adopt,
And you were just looking for things to do.
read to an animal. All right, any others?
I wasn't sure whether we had, whether you were going to bring in the usage rates for the universal class?
Bringing in the what?
The usage rates for the universal classes?
Yeah, I do have a note to see if those can be isolated on their own in the Overdrive marketplace.
Is there a way to, I mean, I would really be interested in finding out what we're doing as far as marketing those to the patrons.
Yeah.
Especially the patrons who don't necessarily come in and could be using their Libby account to access the classes at home.
Yeah, I think we could be doing more. I know we have, when it first came out, I know we had flyers and brochures. Sancy made one for the TV kiosks. We had them we still have them over at the computer lab desk for people to take with the instructions to get access. But in terms of, they don't provide much marketing material, so it would be house-made items. We did post it on Facebook, I know, at least once, and it had good reception, but I don't think we've done anything beyond that since then. As new things keep coming up, you know, some of those older ones get buried. But yeah, I would love, hopefully that could be part of the marketing piece that Vera brought up. We could talk about maybe not just universal class, but everything, different tactics for marketing in total, and then which ones would work best for like digital products and so forth. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Partly. The other thing that I was thinking, this is my area of expertise. This is what I do.
I know.
And these classes, there's a wide range. I don't know if anybody else has gone and looked through what's in there, but it's quite eclectic. There's something that we could potentially do to increase the visibility by actually taking those classes and marrying them with a subject matter expert Q&A session, or we could maybe partner with this. I mean, there's all kinds of things we could potentially do with small business administration, because there's a whole bunch of classes for people who are running their own businesses. There are teacher classes that could be used by people who are maybe thinking about being subs and are not part of the normal activity in the district for teachers, but are people who might be thinking about that as a career path or just as a way to earn a little extra money. So I think there's a lot of things, and I would hate us to lose that free resource because we weren't making it as obvious how beneficial it could potentially be. And I was planning, I'm actually meeting with is it Vicky?
Vicky on Monday, yeah.
Vicky
I
on
plan to be
Monday.
there as well.
Okay. And I wanted to look through a couple of those classes beforehand, because one of the most effective ways to make this a really great resource for adults is to marry it some way with additional processing, additional ability for them to grasp what it is and personalize it by sometimes asking very specific questions, which they can't do when it's just a class, but they could do if we extended the time that the class is actually available to them by giving them a small subject matter expert Q&A session. You show up in the workforce development room and you can ask whatever questions you want of this person for an hour. Lots of things you could do in order to continue the learning and make it more valuable.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that on Monday when you come in. I think it's always been, it's a common problem for libraries all over is just, like Vera said, getting the word out and getting the right resources. Once you get them in there, how do we let people that don't normally come in our doors know about what we've got going on? If they're not, liking us on our Facebook page, they're not, we don't have a newspaper now that has regular stories. How are we getting to these different people? So yeah, it's a big challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, I would love to hear more about that, because if we can solve that, we can conquer the world.
All right, I got one more thing, since you guys are talking about advertising and everything, because I've talked to Penny about it. We have the AJ schools, and that's what usually sees stuff for Pinell County, but my kid goes to school in Mesa, but the kids live here in Pinell. Are we allowed to reach out to these schools and let them know what our programs are, even though it's in Maricopa, or
Programs like
just anything at the library? Are they
any of the
allowed
events?
to
Oh yeah,
share that with them? Okay.
oh yeah, definitely.
I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure if, Pinell has to stay in Pinell or what, so I
No,
wasn't sure with that.
No, we can mix.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, any other future agenda items? Okay, I would like to adjourn this meeting at 8:28.